I'm joined by one of the country's most respected voices on firearms policy, Stephen Gutowski, founder and editor at The Reload, and he's also a Read the Free firearms analyst. Stephen, welcome to the program. Tell me, what does this decision and the court indicate, in the court's decision, rather, in the court's rulings on this decision and a couple of decisions to just say, hey, we don't want to take these cases right now. What does that tell you about where the Supreme Court may be heading as it pertains to the Second Amendment in general? Because traditionally speaking, if this was any other type of law, you'd have legal scholars and analysts saying, well, the court is indicating something. What do you think the court's indicating here?
Yeah, one, it may be indicating that it doesn't want to get involved in these Second Amendment cases until they've let the lower courts really dig through them and speak on them and have developed records, and they can look at all of the lower court proceedings and then make their decisions. That's one thing that you could take away, right? The other thing is they may be waiting for more circuit splits, which is actually a bit of a problem for gun rights activists, because one thing you'll notice about a lot of these gun control laws, the stricter laws that are being challenged, like these carry laws, these boom response laws, they're all in deep blue states, right? Which means that they're also in deep blue districts in the federal court system, federal circuits. And the problem with that is you're less likely, at least, to get a split circuit, a split among those circuits, because if only the liberal circuits have cases, against these kind of gun carry restrictions, then they're probably all going to come to similar conclusions. Now, that doesn't always happen.
99.9% guarantee they're going to come close to the similar conclusion, Stephen.
Very similar.
No doubt.
I will say
that.
in this case in particular, there has been a difference in the Ninth Circuit and I think the First Circuit. The numbers don't match; they don't go around easily. So sometimes I forget which one's which. But either way, there have been two circuits that have come to different conclusions on what gun rights activists call the vampire rule, which is this ban on carrying a gun, even if you have a license, into publicly accessible private property, so things like stores, unless the store says you can and posts a sign that says you can. So basically the opposite of how it's always been done everywhere else. So there's been some disagreement in the lower courts, even in the liberal circuits, about that question. But you get the idea here. Generally speaking, it's a problem if they're waiting for circuit splits on these gun cases, because the strictest gun laws,
like New York, where you have this ludicrous, are you of good moral character nonsense. I mean, it's going to take a while, Stephen, before that works its way back to the court.
Yeah, it could, right? I mean, these cases take years. One of the interesting things about this Antioch case, this New York case, is that in the early stages of it, the plaintiffs asked the Supreme Court to intervene right away to try and block this New York law when it was first passed. And the court denied cert at that point. But Alito wrote a statement then. Nobody wrote anything this time around. Today, nobody wrote anything. But back in the first attempt to get this to the Supreme Court, Alito wrote, and he implied that he thought that the very first judge to look at this case, who found that the law was unconstitutional and didn't fit with Bruen, he thought that was a good ruling, and also made comments about how the Second Circuit, that's the appeals court that's handling this, should move quickly, and if they don't move quickly, then the plaintiff should go back to the Supreme Court. I guess they've been satisfied with how quickly the lower courts moved, because again, they're not intervening at this point. And it could take another year, 2 years before this really gets
it's going to be a while
all the way through.
It's going to be a while. Stephen, before we wrap here, are there any cases that are more clean cut that are heading to the Supreme Court that you think the court is absolutely going to take on? And if so, what is the significance of them? What could we expect out of them?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I'm not absolutely sure that they're going to take any Second Amendment cases, right? I mean, it's just hard to say. The other thing, too, is there's so much... it's easy to get very focused on the gun stuff, right? Understandably, it's what we, it's what we do for a living, right? And people care very deeply about the Second Amendment, and gun rights activists focus on gun rights cases, which makes a lot of sense. But obviously, the court handles everything. And there's a lot going on right now. And I think maybe the court also recognizes that they're probably going to have a lot of fast-moving cases over some of these, executive power questions that are going on, and so maybe they're making their docket clear for that. This could be part of it because they don't take a lot of, yeah, they don't. They also just don't take a lot of cases anymore. The Roberts Court just doesn't take a lot of cases to begin with. And they have, in the courts, the average person's eye, they probably aren't moving very fast, not taking a lot of cases. But in the court's timeline, they took 2 Second Amendment cases, big Second Amendment cases, in 2 years. That's much faster than they have been doing things. But either way, there's 2 cases right now that are in front of the court that deal with Maryland's assault weapons, so-called assault weapons ban, right? AR-15 ban. And then also, I believe it's New Hampshire's magazine ban, and that one is called Ocean State Tactical, and you've got the Maryland case. I forget the name. Apologies, but those 2 cases are waiting right now for the court to hear them. They are both Second Amendment cases, so they're Second Amendment challenges to these restrictions. They're obviously big ticket items. This is kind of the one that everyone on the gun rights side would like them to take.
Magazine bans, AR-15 ban. I mean, those are huge, Stephen.
Those are the big ticket items right there, and those are in the state of play where they're through the merit stage. They could take these up. These are well suited to be taken up. And what they've been doing is relisting these. So every week or so, they consider new cases. And this has been on there for consideration for like 8 weeks in a row. No one really knows why. We don't have that great of insight into why the court does. So that could be a sign,
Stephen, that the court may pick up both of those cases.
It could be. They could do that.
I hope, because we need to get some clarity, I think, as it pertains to AR-15s and magazine capacity. Because, in D.C., you have DC concealed carry. I have DC concealed carry. I do not like this nonsense of you can only have 10 rounds in the mag, and then you can only have 2 mags on you, one in your firearm, and then one on your holster or your pocket, however you decide to carry. I mean, that's just ludicrous to me, because the Constitution doesn't have any restrictions on the capacity. So it's like they're just coming up with their own rules.
Yep. So that's what they could take up those cases and decide that big question. That's something that's been 30 years of fighting over that.
Yeah, boy, a lot. There are people who have died trying to, dedicating their life to those 2 in particular. And AR-15 is the most popular sporting and hunting rifle in the freaking country.
Yep.
I mean, millions of people own this thing. So I don't know how you can ban it. And magazine capacity, again, goes back to my point. Who gets to dictate how many rounds in a magazine, or how many magazines is too many? And what are you basing that off of?
It's not clear, because the magazine limits are different from state to state. And some states have different limits based on whether it's a rifle or a handgun. And
that's exactly my point. Stephen Gutowski, founder of The Reload, and also a We the Free Firearms analyst. We always appreciate you, my man, for coming in and dropping some incredible knowledge with us. Guys, Stephen Gutowski is with us once a week, informing us, keeping us knowledgeable about upcoming court cases across the country, some that may appear to be small, some that are already big. A lot of those small ones, guys, as we sort of talked about here, may be on their way up to monumental decisions in the next year or 2, so stay tuned. Again, check out The Reload, where you can see a lot of Stephen's incredible work as a journalist, talking about the issues that matter most to us as members of the Second Amendment community. Stay safe, stay blessed. Stephen Gutowski, shout out to you, my friend. Thanks for being here with us. I'm Shermichael Singleton. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.